Hello and welcome to Colred Plays Raid Shadow Legends. I am Colred. Thank you for joining me. There has been a ton of new information released about Raid Shadow Legends in just the last few days. Starting with the announcement of 2 new mythical champions, and going all the way through just a few moments ago when the sneak peek for update 7.6 dropped in-game. In between, we had an interview by the content creator Ash with Cirilla, who is an employee of Plarium. And we've also got a Prism Shard event going on right now. There's so much information to cover. I'm going to try to make it as quick and painless as possible for you, but you're really going to want to know what's going on with Raid Shadow Legends these days. So stick around. Let's get started. Okay, before we get started, I just want to say thank you to everybody who supported yesterday's video. We asked for a push from our viewers to like that video and subscribe to the channel, and even to link that video in your Discord communities. And that's what you did. And as a result, that video did about twice as well as our normal videos do. I think it was an important topic. So if you haven't watched yesterday's video, please go do it. It's one of the most important videos I've ever made. Now for today's video, let's start with Prism Shards. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I'm not convinced Prism Shards are a good thing. In fact, I've been pretty negative about them. I think the access is the primary issue. They are hard to acquire for free, and they are expensive to acquire if you pay for them. I think in terms of value, the value relative to other shards that you buy or you can get in game, the value is relatively low. They have made some tweaks to the Prism Shard mechanics over the last few months. They seem to be experimenting with different levels of drop rates and different numbers of shards being required per pull. I don't know if that was always the plan or if they're still trying to find the sweet spot. But I think one major improvement for this event is the summon pool. They have gone with a fusion summon pool this time, and so you can summon previous fusion champions. I really like this idea, and I hope they continue in this vein for the future. One of the things about fusion champions is they are great champions for free-to-play players to focus on and really add value and power to their account. But sometimes it can be a bit disappointing when you join the game, when you start a new account, and you know that a really good fusion event just passed a month or two ago. Like we just recently had Newt, who was an amazing, one of the best fusion champions of all time. So if you just started a new account, you're just hearing that, oh man, I just missed out on one of the best fusions ever. But now you get a second opportunity to get those champions, or at least focus on getting those champions in ways that you couldn't just expect from a normal shard pull. So here we do have a 12% chance of a legendary, an 88% chance of an epic, but these 6 legendaries are 6 of the best fusions of all time. And most of the epics here are playable. There are some who are not that impressive, but there are several very good epics here that if you pulled, you could be quite happy about. So I like that the summon pools are strong. I hope they give us more access to the Prism Shards themselves, but we'll have to see how that plays out in future events. All right, now I want to talk about Ash's interview with Cirilla. Now, if you want to watch the video, the easiest way to do that is to go over here to your tab on the left side, click on news, and you'll see that you've got Cirilla and Ash, the new interview. This just dropped yesterday. So you can click on that. It'll take you to the video and you can watch the video for yourself. Now, that video was wide ranging. It was fairly long. It covered a lot of topics and I think some really interesting things, some major announcements that clearly Plarium was looking for an avenue to announce to the community, the player base. And then also I think Cirilla let slip maybe a couple of little tidbits that I think are indicative of Plarium's current state of mind about the state of the game and their relationship with the player base and their goals moving forward. Now we know that Plarium has gotten a new CEO just in the last, I think about 6 months, maybe about 5 or 6 months ago. And then that CEO comes from the casino side of the business. So his experience is not with games, but with games, right? Not video games, not with gamers of this type, but with casino games and profit making in that world. And as a result, we've seen a lot of changes that have been fairly unfriendly towards the player base. We know that Plarium has entered, or Raid Shadow Legends has entered into profit mode, whatever that means. We know that from an internal announcement that Plarium made and that is now public. And that has been a bit concerning, especially with the changes that we've seen in the monetization and sort of the aggressive monetization of the game in recent months. This was most apparent with the release of the Prism Shards that we just saw, and even more so with the Primal Shards and Mythic Champions that were just released about a month ago. So let's start with Cirilla's announcements regarding Primal Shards and Mythic Champions, and there are a lot of them. All right, let's start with the bad news first. Yeah, so there's some bad news. It's not awful, but we know that one of the complaints about the Primal Shards is that when Primal Shards have a 2x event, the chance of mythical champions doesn't double. So if we look here at the drop rates, the mythical chance is 0.5%, and in all of the other 2x events, the top reward drop rate doubles. That's not true for Primal Shards, and that's not going to change in the near future. That decision is made around the idea that there aren't enough mythical champions in the game, and they don't want to overpopulate the game with too many mythical champions. I know I don't feel like that's a great reason, but I understand it at least. They've been saying this for several weeks, and this hasn't changed, and I don't expect this to change in the near future. But it does sound like they have a plan to eventually go to a 2x drop rate on mythical champions. It's just that that is going to be relatively far in the future. My impression was that while she was hinting it might happen as soon as second quarter 2024, likely it might not happen for a year. And that is because they are adding new mythical champions to the game relatively slowly. We know that there are 2 new mythicals coming to the game this month. We'll see more about that in the update video. And then it sounds like Plarium's plan is to release 1 to 2 mythical champions every month for the foreseeable future, with no plans whatsoever to create mythical void champions. They're not taking that possibility off the plate for the future, but right now that is not a consideration. And so at least we don't have to worry about what shards those are going to come from or how that's going to change power creep in the game. So currently there are only 2 places, or maybe 3 places if you consider events and tournaments separate things, to get Primal Shards or Primal Quartz, right? Because you can collect 100 quartz to get a Primal Shard. So tournaments and events are probably the simplest place or the most accessible place to get Primal Shards. But then the second place here is Hydra Clash. Now, there's a lot of things going on with Hydra Clash that are problematic, and it sounds like they're starting to address Hydra Clash as well. But one of the things that they are trying to do to promote Hydra Clash is to reward champions with Primal Quartz during Hydra Clash. So it sounds like they are going to be increasing the drop rate or the drop number of these quartz. I think realistically, in order to make this a viable place of getting Primal Shards, they're going to have to at least triple or quadruple the number of shards that you get per chest. I'm not sure that I see that happening, but maybe they will. Maybe they will increase it significantly. If they bump this top chest from 30 to 75 to, like, say 50 to 100, which is a half of a shard to a full shard per chest, that feels very minimal to me, but it feels more in keeping with what Plarium really does when they make these kinds of changes. They would rather err on the side of a system that requires players to spend more money. So if they gave you like 5 free full shards, they would see that as a loss of income. I don't expect that to happen. But we'll see how generous they feel like tweaking this in our direction, in the players' direction. I expect to see at least maybe a 20 to 50% increase in the number of shards that we're going to get. I hope it's more than that. The other thing I'd personally really like to see is that everybody should get a chest and everybody should get access to Primal Shards every single week. I think that Hydra Clash, first of all, CVC is not in a great state and they're going to be improving that, but I think Hydra Clash doesn't even match CVC in terms of rewards. In a CVC, as long as you contribute some points to your clan's total, and as long as your clan is active enough to complete all of their tiers of clan rewards, you still get a measurable benefit to participating in CVC, even if you don't win. And I think that's how Hydra Clash should work. Everybody should get rewards based on both their personal investment and their clan's overall activity level. And then the winners should get a small but significant prize that is a reward over those participation rewards. But until this system rewards everybody who participates, it's just not enticing to the lower level clans, to the mid-game player. Really, this right now is about the high level clans, the top 100 or 200 clans. My clan is not in there. We do this a little bit every week, and we really don't have access to these accessories. We don't have access to this extra clan gold. We don't have access to these extra Prism Shards, even if we all participate in this event. And I think that's a mistake. It is a once a week event. Go ahead and give everybody some rewards. And then you can still give additional rewards to the clans and players who perform the best. So I do think this is a focus for Plarium, but we'll have to see what kind of changes are happening here moving forward. I do think that the nerf for Corpulent Cadaver is a helpful one for Hydra Clash and for the game in general. That clearly was not working as intended. It was a really interesting solution, but it just broke the game and needed to be removed, so I'm glad it's being addressed. Another interesting tidbit is that Primal Quartz will be added here in Live Arena. I don't know if they're going to be added to these chests, so they'll be part of the silver chest or bronze chest, whatever that you get dropped here, or if it will be some other mechanic, but this will be another place where we can get access to Primal Quartz. So it sounds like we're going to be getting more access to Primal Quartz, which I think is a good move. I would like to see it pushed fairly far. This is my main account, and as you can see, I have gotten 6 Primal Shards in 5 weeks. That's about 1.25, a little bit more than 1.25 per week. So it sounds like we're going to be getting access to more Primal Quartz and more Primal Shards, and I think that's a good thing, but I'd like to see them really push this so that these shards are on par with Void Shards. And Cirilla did mention that that's how they should be viewed. If you watched my Matrix video last month about these shards once they drop, I said that we should be considering Primal Shards just like Void Shards. That's the closest approximation of value I think that exists in the game. And the reason is very simple. Void Shards were the previous shard that dropped the best champions in the game. Those were Void Legendary. And now Primal Shards have replaced Void Shards as that top prize resource. So Mythic champions are now the best champion in the game. And so they're going to drop at a similar rate to Void Legendaries. That makes sense. The thing that doesn't make sense is that I can personally get about 6 Void Shards per week on my main account, whereas I'm only getting a little bit more than 1 Primal Shard per week on the same account. Now, because Primal Shards have been so difficult to get, I haven't really extended myself to try to get every single one available. But the Void Shards are much more numerous, and I think Primal Shards, in order to be considered as valuable as Void Shards, need to be as numerous as Void Shards, or at least close to it. Maybe not quite as much, but instead of getting 6 Void Shards a week, I think if I'm not getting at least 4 Primal Shards a week, then these shards are not plentiful enough. We just need more of them. The drop rate of the champions, the mercy system that is currently employed, indicates to us that we need more of these shards as players, free-to-play players or spending players, for them to be valuable to us. Otherwise, nobody's going to be happy. So we'll see if this additional quartz and these additional places to farm that quartz translates into several more shards per week, or maybe if it's just going to be a 20 or 30% bump. We don't know, but that's not going to be enough. So I hope Plarium does a better job and really considers getting these Primal Shards on par with Void Shards, or at least close to it. I also think the price needs to come down so that they match more closely to Void Shards. Once we're there, I think everybody's going to be a lot happier, one, about spending money on buying the shards or buying the quartz or whatever, and I think free-to-play players are going to be happier about their access to these new, most powerful champions. Now, there are several more updates that were announced during the interview that I want to cover, so that's it for Mythical Champions and Primal Shards right now. But there are 2 big content drops that are coming, and these are both really interesting. The first one was a bit vague, but Cirilla called it bigger than Doom Tower. So there is a new area that we don't expect. She did mention it is not the Great Void. So we have been looking at this Great Void locked out location for quite a while. And she did mention that this is not one of the areas that is dropping in the near future. Who knows if that's still in the works, how long that'll take. But right now there is a new piece of content. We have no idea what it is. She mentioned something about an ocean of possibilities, or an ocean of mechanics, or something like that. So we're expecting a pretty big, maybe new water-based area that is going to open up in the game. And that should give us access to more resources, more gameplay. Hopefully it's really interesting gameplay. And in this area, there is going to be an achievable mythic champion. And Cirilla mentioned it, just like Lydia. So here in the faction crypts, if you complete all of the faction crypts, you get access to Lydia, the Death Siren. This is an achievable champion for everyone who plays the game. And there is going to be a mechanic similar to this for getting a free mythic champion for everybody in the game. Now, I assume that the challenge is going to be difficult. If the content is larger than Doom Tower, it's going to be a significant amount of content, probably going to require a lot of time and effort to complete, which is great because we need some new endgame content, especially good content, because the last few content drops haven't been that exciting. And I do think that free access for everyone to a mythical champion is a great idea for that new content. I know I said we were done with mythic champions, but there is one last piece of information, which is that Cirilla also announced a permanent mythic fusion is coming. So in our fusion tab in the portal here, we have permanent fusions, Relic Keeper, Broadmaw. Obviously, there is the legendary, which is Raz and Scarhide. I don't have available here because I've used him. I've fused him once. So I imagine that the mythic champion will be much like the Raz and Scarhide fusion. You'll collect a bunch of champions, fuse them up, complete your mythic champion, and then that mythic champion will be removed from the fusion tab. But so we do have potentially 2 free mythics that are available to everybody in the game. And I think that's a step in the right direction. But I do think until the mercy system, the drop rates, and our access to Primal Shards are all addressed to our satisfaction, free mythic champions sound great, but they're not enough. The system has to work on a whole. So I'm really excited to see what Plarium is doing in that area, but I'm still skeptical as well because we know it's Plarium. So it sounds good. I'm glad they're listening. I'm glad they're making changes, and I'm glad we're getting access to free mythical champions. But I'm still going to reserve judgment on if this is going to be healthy for the game in the long run, or if they're going to fall short of what player expectations are. Now, one thing that I did find very hopeful was that Cirilla mentioned that Plarium is aware of the players' opinions. She mentioned community forums and players expressing their opinions there. So I think she probably meant both the official raid forums from the website and the official raid Discord. And she said that when players make strong arguments, we listen. So I think that's important. If you are disappointed in the way that things work, and it's okay to be emotional a little bit about it and frustrated with it when we're talking amongst each other as players. But if you have a suggestion for Plarium, try to be as objective as possible, put together a strong argument, and go ahead and put that argument either in the raid forums or into the raid Discord. And it sounds like Plarium is listening. I don't know if they're listening in a way that we want them to. I don't know if they're going to take our suggestions, but at least they're taking us seriously. Because I've never really heard anybody from Plarium mention that particular interaction, the interaction between players' suggestions and dissatisfaction and Plarium's development path in this way before. Usually when Plarium says, we really are interested in the community's opinion, they completely ignore our opinion. But this time it sounds like they might be listening. And I think that's because the drop of mythical champions went so poorly and the community reacted so strongly in a negative way that Plarium has had no choice but to start to listen to us. Now, how long they'll listen to us, we don't know. How many of our suggestions they'll take, we don't know. But at least during this window of opportunity, I think it's important for every player who has a point to make about the game to speak it out, speak it publicly to Plarium, and collectively our voices will be multiplied. Just try to make it a good argument. Try not to be too emotional about it. We're not trying to flame Plarium. We do enjoy the game. That's the reason that we're upset when we see it moving in a bad direction. But I highly encourage you to take those avenues of expression and use them and see if we can't collectively get Plarium back on track. Now, there was an unexpected announcement of another big change to the content, and that is Clan Wars. Clan Wars are coming. Now, I've been talking about this. Other content creators have been talking about this. CVC, you can see there's a CVC which is dropping later today in about 17 and a half hours. CVC is a disappointing game mode. It is basically a super grindy game mode in which you are not actually competing against your opponent directly, but rather feels like another cash grab by Plarium. Go and spend some money. If you spend money, you can get these rewards for that money. It's not fun for free-to-play players. It's not nice for spenders. They feel like they're being taken advantage of. And so I think we all want something better. We want an opportunity to actually test ourselves, our skills, our rosters against other players in the game. And it does sound like that's coming. Cirilla mentioned that Clan Wars are actively being worked on, but she did caution that there is no exact timeline for release, that they want to make sure they get the content right, which I think is a good thing, because the last few game modes that were released, even Hydro, which I think eventually became a good game mode, those were released maybe a little bit prematurely. They weren't quite tweaked or balanced the right way, and they got a negative response from the player base. So I would like to see Clan Wars, which I think is a highly desired game mode, to be really great. I think it'd be a strong addition to the game. I think it would make players very happy, and I want to make sure it's executed at a high quality upon launch. So take your time, Plarium, but hopefully we will be seeing Clan Wars somewhere in the middle to late part of 2024. Now, finally, we get to the quality of life announcements. There were only a few that Cirilla specifically pointed out. She does say that Plarium is working on several quality of life changes in the game. There are 3 big ones to note, especially for free-to-play players. The first is that champion rebalancing will be resuming. There haven't been too many new rebalances on old champions in the past several months, and Cirilla seemed to indicate that that was because of the development of the mythical champions. The team that would be doing the rebalancing is the team that has been designing and building the mythical champions. So now that those champions are in the game, that team can start to place some of its focus back on rebalancing. And 2 legendary champions at the top of the list are Fortis and Angar. So if you are disappointed in those champions, they will be rebalanced in the near future, probably within the next couple of months. The second big quality of life change that I'm excited about, we've all been asking for, and it will affect every single player in the game, is an increase to storage. We'll be getting 200 additional storage spots for artifacts, for accessories, and also for champions. Now, it sounds like we'll probably have to unlock that storage for champions. We'll have to pay to open those up, but we'll have to see how that plays out. I don't know if the vault size is also going to be increased, or just the roster size, or both vaults and the roster may get 200 spots each. So it could potentially be an additional 600 spots, which would be a lot. Or maybe the 200 is going to be distributed amongst those 3 areas for champion storage. But we should get 200 additional spots for artifacts, 200 additional spots for accessories as well. And that's going to be a welcome addition. And then finally, they're actually doing something that I literally just asked for in my last live stream, which is that they are making super raids permanently available for all dungeons. This is great. This is just going to reduce the amount of time we have to spend in the game to do tournaments, to grind gear. It's going to be excellent. I hope they add it to Minotaur's Labyrinth. That would be fantastic. I hope they also add it to the Potion Keeps. That would be great. Maybe even Iron Twins, Sand Devils, and Phantom Shogun. I don't know the extent of it. It sounded like right now they're only considering the gear dungeons, but I hope they expand super raids because it's a mechanic that everybody enjoys. Nobody says, please don't give me super raids. And since it's optional, we can always opt out of it if we need to. So I'm excited for that quality of life change, and that should be coming relatively soon as well, before the end of the year. Okay, so that was a ton of information. That interview was really helpful. Thank you to Ash for doing that interview. Thank you to Cirilla for coming out and letting us know some of this information. I think communication between Plarium and the player base isn't always excellent, and I like to see moves like this, and I hope that this indicates more transparency on the part of Plarium and more engagement with the community, because I think that the players don't feel respected by Plarium, and I think that that hurts both the player base and Plarium as a company. I think it hurts the overall health of Raid. So I think this kind of communication can only lead to good things. Now, just today, there was a video that dropped about update 7.6. So I'm going to watch that right now, and you can get my reaction to it, because I haven't seen it yet. Okay, so this is called the update 7.6 sneak peek. So they're giving us a preview of this update. I don't know exactly when this is dropping, but I assume in the next week or so. So let's go ahead and watch the video and see what is coming soon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Spooktober. So we're getting into the spirit of this most frightful of seasons with a sneak peek at some of the awesome things coming to Raid in update 7.60. We're keeping it low-key for this one, with some new clan features, much requested quality of life changes, and a collection of truly terrifying champions. Sound good? Then let's do it. First is a feature that clans will love: clan insignias. Yes, you can now design your own custom in-game insignia and fly your clan's colors wherever you go. While the clan leader ultimately decides on an insignia's final design, everyone in the clan can play around with the insignia creator, so they can craft.
Okay, this is a good idea. I have not asked for this. I don't know that anybody has asked for this, but it's almost silly that this doesn't already exist in the game. Clan insignias are everywhere. I mean, they're in MMOs, they're in gacha games. Clan insignias are literally one of the components of making a clan feel personal. So I'm glad they're adding this. It's strange that I never thought of it. But I think when I first started playing the game, I was like, they don't have an insignia, that's silly. And then I just forgot about it. But as a clan leader, as a community leader, I think that this is actually pretty fun. It gives you a way to personalize your clan, and it's going to make everybody, I think, feel a little bit more engaged in the clan, which is great because clans right now are a little bit underwhelming. You really need a good, strong Discord community like we've been building at Cool Red Plays in order to make your clan's interactions more lively and more interesting and really feel like you're playing with friends. So I think this is a step in the right direction. I don't know that it's that big a deal, but it is a step in the right direction.
Their own masterpiece to present to their glorious liege. We won't show you everything in this sneak peek, but just know that you get to choose your insignia's shape, pattern, colors, and up to 6 symbols that you can move and rotate however you'd like. Combining all these elements will allow anyone to create a unique insignia and make their clan instantly recognizable. As for where you'll see these resplendent emblems, they'll be displayed next to your name on various tournament leaderboards, in the Doom Tower rankings, in the arena, and in the Hydra Clash tab. Just take a look at some of the awesome insignias we've managed to come up with.
Okay, Plarium, you're pushing it a little bit hard now. We're at 1:18 into the video, and all we've talked about is clan insignias, and it's a 4.5-minute video. So you're spending a third of the video on clan insignias. Good. I'm glad you added to it. It looks like a cool feature. It looks like a relatively powerful, like, insignia maker, which not all games have. Sometimes it's really basic. And this feels like, you can move the positions of the symbols. You can have up to 6 symbols. That's great. I don't need 1.5 minutes on the video about this. So let's move on. I'm going to skip ahead to the end of the insignias. Yeah, it's 1.5 minutes on insignias. I don't need that. All right, here we go. Clan leagues. This is bigger.
Simple enough concept. Perform well in CVC tournaments and Hydra clashes, and you'll earn your clan points that will see you progress through the league and, in turn, unlock clan stars that'll be displayed above your clan insignia. In the future, these points can also be earned in clan PvP events, which I know you're all eagerly awaiting. All clans begin starless, but as you progress through each...
Okay, so far that's the only part of clan leagues that sounds interesting to me, which is this clan PvP. So I think that that's interesting, right? This is what we were just talking about with clan wars. I do think clan leagues are interesting, and it'll make all of the other things that you do with your clan a little bit more impactful, which I think is great. More engagement for clans, more rewards for clan activities. I think all of that's good because right now clans feel still relatively disposable unless you're really at the top tiers of CVC. So anything to bind clans together, to make them come together, to want to work together as a multiplayer group, as opposed to just being a collection of single player players who need to be in a clan in order to get like more clan boss rewards. I think all of that is great.
5 stars in Bronze League, you progress to Silver. Earn 5 Silver Stars, and you rank up.
Yeah. Okay, I get it. I'm skipping past this. I know I don't need another minute on describing this. You can just talk about the things that I actually care about. That would be great. Some of these videos, sometimes it's like, we have a small update, but we want to announce big things and make it feel really powerful. Clan Wars. Give me Clan Wars. That you could do a 5-minute video on. I'll be excited about. But clan insignias and then like clan leagues, which are just little additions. I don't think I need 3 minutes about those two things.
Now it's time
quality of life improvements.
Quality of life improvements. To start, the Events tab is getting quite the rework to include more info on various in-game activities. It will show all relevant activities you can do in Raid, either ongoing or those that will start in the near future, provide more information in general, and look much better than it did before.
Okay. It's not a bad thing. I don't mind this. But you're touting quality of life improvements. Let's talk about arena. Let's fix the arena, the Great Hall. Let's talk about getting an option for a free regroup on Clan Boss. Let's talk about all of the different little mechanical issues in the game that need to be fixed and improved. Let's talk about reducing our overall time investment in the game so that this can become more manageable and more fun and less of a burden every day. This is fine. I don't mind this. The only thing I mind about this is if you're spending time doing this and focusing on this and focusing on announcing it, you're not actually addressing the things that we're asking about. There are so many quality of life improvements. Every day I put out a video, and in every single video, at least one player comments about a quality of life improvement they'd like to see about the subject of my video. So I know that you're good at it. I know, Plarium, I know that you're good at it. You're capable of making real quality of life improvements that work. The free regroup and Hydra Clan Boss is awesome. I don't know why it doesn't exist in the Demon Lord. I don't know why. It's been over a year. Put it in the Demon Lord. Let us just reset our keys and not waste them on bad runs. The RNG is not as big a deal for the Clan Boss, I know. I like the quick battle thing. I think that's a really good addition. It saves me personally about an hour a day of playtime. That's fantastic. Permanent raids, or permanent super raids rather, that's a great addition. Let's get that in the game. Those are quality of life improvements you're going to get me excited about. A new events tab? All right. Unless it saves me time in game or it gets me more resources that I can then use in other places in the game, I don't care what it looks like. I really don't.
Actually, we do have more good news for clans. All clan quests that required you to complete certain objectives in various dungeons will now include the hard mode stages of those dungeons.
That's an actual quality of life improvement. This is good. It should have been like this on launch of hard mode dungeons, but it's nice that now if you need, drops from Spider, it will include Spider normal mode and Spider hard mode. That's great.
Come the release of 7.60. Finally, we're updating the Tavern UI with a new button that'll allow you to disable the warning pop-up when you try.
This is another nice quality of life improvement, but this doesn't need a video, right? What this is telling me, what this video is currently telling me, is that you want the player base to understand that you are focused on quality of life improvements. That's great. But you're trying to get us excited about 3 quality of life improvements that are so minimal. And 2 are, at least 1 is almost unnecessary. It's something nobody has asked for, right? This is a nice little thing. It's going to save me a button click, maybe several button clicks a day. Great. But overall, this is going to reduce my time in game by like 45 seconds a day. Why are you you're spending as much time on this video as I'm going to save each day. It's a silly focus. Now, I get that you're trying to convince us that you are now focused on quality of life improvements. Talk about Hydra Clash. Talk about Arena. Talk about these other things that are big gearing, the silver problem. Like, talk about those problems, those quality of life improvements. That's what we want to hear about. Wow, there's another 15 seconds about this particular quality of life improvement. I'm skipping it. I don't care.
Champion Showcase. As mentioned early, we're wasting no time in throwing ourselves into spooky season, and we hope you'll be joining us when our many Halloween events go live. We're going for a haunted carnival vibe this year, and 2 of our new champions capture it well.
This is cool. I like this kind of update. Give me a preview of the Halloween events that are coming. Let me start to get excited about it. I like the Halloween events. I like the Christmas events. I like all of the big seasonal events that come out in the game. Show me the artwork. Get me excited about the champions. Tell me the theme, and I can start thinking about it and anticipating it. And that's fine. That doesn't have to be an update. Doesn't have to be a quality of life change or a new game content change. It can just be something cool that we do regularly that I enjoy. It's kind of like a new Fusion champ. I get excited for Fusion champs. I always want to see the announcements. I want to see what Plarium has done with their champion design because they usually do it really well. And this is just like that. I love the visuals. I like the themes. I like the new champions. Cool.
Kaja the Rye and Timid the Fool know a thing about trick-or-treating and are certainly eager to revel in the Halloween spirit. Just watch out for the bloodstains they'll leave behind. All
right, and so it looks like there's another 40 seconds of this. So I'm going to stop it there. You can go ahead and watch this update video all on your own, but that's enough for me for now. Okay, so we covered a lot of ground today. Obviously, there was the interview, then there was the sneak peek. There was a lot of other stuff going on in the game. So I hope this has gotten you caught up. For me right now, I'm a little bit ambivalent about where we stand. I like some of the things I've heard. Obviously, new content is always appreciated and anticipated if that content is really good. I like the focus on quality of life improvements, but I haven't seen any major quality of life improvements, at least in the sneak peek, that are getting me excited. The one I heard about in the interview was the permanent super raids, which I think will be a major benefit to everybody. I'm excited for the clan changes. I'm excited for additional access to mythical champions. So I'm reserving judgment right now. I think the player base has been fairly angry recently. I definitely feel that myself. I've been very frustrated with the most recent directions that Plarium has moved in, but I'm hoping they're going to correct course, get back on track with building bridges with the player community, taking our suggestions, taking our concerns seriously, and building a more friendly relationship moving forward. We'll have to see if that happens. Like I said, right now, I'm not sure it is happening, but at least I have some hope that I didn't have a few days ago. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think we're moving in the right direction? Are you excited about any of these particular announcements? Which ones get you the most excited about playing Raid? And where are your concerns right now? What do you think they haven't addressed that you're worried about? All right, that's it for me. Thanks for hanging out. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our Discord community. I've been Colred. I will see you in another video soon.